Yeah, and there is none like him. With him we win. He's our champion. With him we win. We always win. He's our champion. Yahuwah is the awesome Yah, and there is none like you. With you we win, you're our champion. With you we win, we always win, you're our champion. We lift our hands, we lift our voice, we celebrate our champion. We sing hallelujah, hallelujah, for the King who is victorious. Yahuwah is the awesome Yah, and there is none like you. With you we win, you're our champion. With you we can lose, we always win, you're our champion. We lift our hands, we lift our voice, we celebrate our champion. We sing hallelujah, hallelujah, for the King who is victorious. We lift our hands, we lift our voice, we celebrate our champion. We sing hallelujah, hallelujah, for the King who is victorious. Yahuwah is the awesome Yah, and there is none like you. With you we win, you're our champion. With you we can lose, we always win, you're our champion. Yahuwah is the awesome Yah, and there is none like you. With you we win, you're our champion. With you we can lose, we always win, you're our champion. Yahuwah is the awesome Yah, and there is none like you. With you we win, you're our champion. With you we can lose, we always win, you're our champion. We lift our hands, we lift our voice, we celebrate our champion. We sing hallelujah, Hallelujah, for the King who is victorious. We lift our hands, we lift our voice, to celebrate our champion. We sing hallelujah, for the King who is victorious. Yahuwah is the awesome Yah, and there is none like you. With you we live, you're our champion. With you we stand, we always win. You're our champion. Yahuwah is the awesome Yah, and there is none like you. With you we live, you're our champion. With you we stand, we always win. You're our champion. Yahuwah is the awesome Yah, and there is none like you. With you we live, you're our champion. With you we stand, we always win. You're our champion. We lift our hands, we lift our voice, we celebrate our champion. We sing hallelujah, for the King who is victorious. We lift our hands, we lift our voice, we celebrate our champion. We sing hallelujah, for the King who is victorious. Yahuwah is the awesome Yah, there is none like you. With you we live, you're our champion. With you we can, we always win. You're our champion. Yahuwah is the awesome Yah, and there is none like you. With you we win, you're our champion. With you we can, we always win. You're our champion. Yahuwah is the awesome Yah, and there is none like you. With you we win, you're our champion. With you we can, we always win. You're our champion. We lift our hands, we lift our voice, we celebrate our champion. We sing hallelujah, hallelujah, for the King who is victorious. We lift our hands, we lift our voice, we celebrate our champion. We sing hallelujah, hallelujah, for the King who is victorious. We lift our hands, we lift our voice, we celebrate our champion. We sing hallelujah, hallelujah, for the King who is victorious. Yahuwah is the awesome God, and there is none like you. With you we win, you're our champion. With you we can lose, we always win, you're our champion. Yahuwah is the awesome God, and there is none like you. With you we win, you're our champion. With you we stand, we always win, you're our champion. Yahuwah is the awesome God, and there is none like you. With you we win, you're our champion. With you we can lose, we always win, you're our champion. Yahuwah is the awesome God, and there is none like you. With you we win, you're our champion. With you we can lose, we always win, you're our champion. We lift our hands, we lift our voice, we celebrate our champion. We sing hallelujah, hallelujah, for the King who is victorious. We lift our hands, we lift our voice, we celebrate our champion. We sing hallelujah, hallelujah, for the King who is victorious. We lift our hands, we lift our voice, we celebrate our champion. We sing hallelujah, hallelujah, for the King who is victorious. Yahuwah is the awesome God, and there is none like you. With you we win, you're our champion. With you we can lose, we always win, You're our champion. You are the awesome God. There is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. You begin. We always win. You're our champion. You are the awesome God. There is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. You begin. We always win. You're our champion. You are the awesome God. There is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. You begin. We always win. You're our champion. You are the awesome God. There is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. You begin. We always win. You're our champion. You are the awesome God. There is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. You begin. We always win. You're our champion. You are the awesome God. There is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. You begin. We always win. You're our champion. You are the awesome God. There is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. You begin. We always win. You're our champion. You are the awesome God. There is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. You begin. We always win. You're our champion. You are the awesome God. There is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. You begin. We always win. You're our champion. You are the awesome God. There is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. You begin. We always win. You're our champion. You are We lift our hands, we lift our voice, we celebrate our champion. We sing hallelujah, hallelujah, for the King who is victorious. We lift our hands, we lift our voice, we celebrate our champion. We sing hallelujah, hallelujah, for the King who is victorious. YouNow is the awesome God, and there is none like you. With you we reign, you're our champion. With you we stand, we always win. You're our champion. I lift my hands in total adoration unto you. You reign on the throne, for you are Yahuwah alone. Because of you my cloudy days are gone. I can sing to you this song. I just wanna say that I have more than anything. I lift my hands in total adoration unto you. You reign on the throne, for you are Yahuwah alone. Because of you my cloudy days are gone. I can sing to you this song. I just wanna say that I have more than anything. I lift my hands in total adoration unto you. You reign on the throne, for you are Yahuwah alone. Because of you my cloudy days are gone. I can sing to you this song. I just wanna say that I have more than anything. I lift my hands in total adoration unto you. You reign on the throne, for you are Yahuwah alone. Because of you my cloudy days are gone. I can sing to you this song. I just wanna say that I have more than anything. I lift my hands in total adoration unto you. You reign on the throne, for you are Yahuwah alone. Because of you my cloudy days are gone. I can sing to you this song. I I just wanna say that I have more than anything. I lift my hands in total adoration unto you. You reign on the throne, for you are Yahuwah alone. Because of you, my cloudy days are gone. I can sing to you this song. I just wanna say that I have more than anything. I have a Yahuwah. I have a Yahuwah. I worship and adore you. Just want to tell you, Yahuwah, I have you more than anything. I have a Yahuwah. I have a Yahuwah. I worship and adore you. Just want to tell you, Yahuwah, I have you more than anything. I have Yahuwah. I have a Yahuwah. I worship and adore you. Just want to tell you, Yahuwah, I have you more than anything. I have Yahuwah. I have a Yahuwah. I worship and adore you. Just want to tell you, Yahuwah, I have you more than anything. I lift my hands in total adoration unto you. You reign on the throne, for you are Yahuwah alone. Because of you, my cloudy days are gone. I can sing to you this song. I just wanna say that I have more than anything. I lift my hands in total adoration unto you. You reign on the throne, for you are Yahuwah alone. Because of you, my cloudy days are gone. I can sing to you this song. I just wanna say that I have more than anything. I have Yahuwah. I have a Yahuwah. I worship and adore you. Just want to tell you, Yahuwah, I have you more than anything. I have Yahuwah. Yahuwah, Yahuwah. I worship and adore you. Just want to tell you, Yahuwah, I have you more than anything. I have Yahuwah. I have a Yahuwah. I worship and adore you. Just want to tell you, Yahuwah, I have you more than anything. I have Yahuwah. I have a Yahuwah. I worship and adore you. Just want to tell you, Yahuwah, I have you more than anything. I lift my hands in total adoration unto you. You reign cloudy days are gone, I can sing to you this song. I just wanna say that I have more than anything. I lift my hands in total adoration unto you. You reign on the throne, for you are Yahuwah alone. Because of you, my cloudy days are gone. I can sing to you this song. I just wanna say that I have more than anything. I lift my hands in total adoration unto you. You reign on the throne, for you are Yahuwah alone. Because of you, my cloudy days are gone. I can sing to you this song. I just wanna say that I have more than anything. I have Yahuwah, I have Yahuwah. I worship and adore you. Just want to tell you, Yahuwah, Yahweh, you more than anything. I have Yahuwah, I have Yahuwah. I worship and adore you. Just want to tell you, Yahuwah, Yahweh, you more than anything. I have Yahuwah, I have Yahuwah. I worship and adore you. Just want to tell you, Yahuwah, Yahweh, you more than anything. I have Yahuwah, I have Yahuwah. I worship and adore you. Just want to tell you, Yahuwah, Yahweh, you more than anything. I have Yahuwah, I have Yahuwah. I worship and adore you. Just want to tell you, Yahuwah, Yahweh, you more than anything. I have Yahuwah, I have Yahuwah. I worship and adore you. Just want to tell you, Yahuwah, Yahweh, you more than anything. I lift my hands in total adoration unto you. You reign on the throne, for you are Yahuwah alone. Because of you, my cloudy days are gone. I can sing to you this song. I just wanna say that I have more than anything. I lift my hands in total adoration unto you. You reign on the throne, for you are Yahuwah alone. Because of you, my cloudy days are gone. I can sing to you this song. I just wanna say that I have more than anything. I have Yahuwah, I have Yahuwah. I worship and adore you. Just want to tell you, Yahuwah, Yahweh, you more than anything. Yahuwah. I worship and adore you. Just want to tell you, Yahuwah, Yahweh, you more than anything. I have Yahuwah. I Yahweh, Yahuwah. I worship and adore you. Just want to tell you, Yahuwah, Yahweh, you more than anything. I have Yahuwah. I Yahweh, Yahuwah. I worship and adore you. Just want to tell you, Yahuwah, Yahweh, you more than anything. I lift my hands in total adoration unto you. You reign on the throne, for you are Yahuwah alone. Because of you, my cloudy days are gone. I can sing to you this song. I just wanna say that I have more than anything. I lift my hands in total adoration unto you. You reign on the throne, for you are Yahuwah alone. Because of you, my cloudy days are gone. I can sing to you this song. I just wanna say that I have more than anything. I have Yahuwah. I Yahweh, Yahuwah. I worship and adore you. Just want to tell you, Yahuwah, Yahweh, you more than anything. I have Yahuwah. I Yahweh, Yahuwah. I worship and adore you. Just want to tell you, Yahuwah, Yahweh, you more than anything. I have Yahuwah. I Yahweh, Yahuwah. I worship and adore you. Just want to tell you, Yahuwah, Yahweh, you more than anything. You make me happy, you make me whole, you take the pain away, I so love you. You make me happy, you make me whole, you take the pain away, I so love you. You make me happy, you make me whole, you take the pain away, I so love you. You make me happy, you make me whole, you take the pain away, I so love you. You make me happy, you make me whole, you take the pain away, I so love you. You make me happy, you make me whole, you take the pain away, I so love you. And everything about you is right. It covers all my wrongs. Your light saved my life. You is where I belong. I belong to you. I belong to you. You make me happy. You make me whole. You take the pain away. I so harbor you. You make me happy. You make me whole. You take the pain away. I so harbor you. You make me happy. You make me whole. You take the pain away. I so harbor you. And everything about you is right. It covers all my wrongs. Your life saved my life. With you is where I belong. I belong to you. I belong to you. You make me happy. You make me whole. You take the pain away. I so harbor you. You make me happy. You make me whole. You take the pain away. I so harbor you. You make me happy. You make me whole. You take the pain away. I so harbor you. You make me happy. You make me whole. You take the pain away. I so harbor you. And everything about you is right. It covers all my wrongs. Your life saved my life. You is where I belong. I belong to you. I belong to you. So I harbor you. I can't live without you. I live to worship you. Forever me and you. So I harbor you. I can't make it without you. I live to worship you. Forever me and you. So I harbor you. I can't make it without you. I live to worship you. Forever me and you. So I harbor you. I can't make it without you. I live to worship you. Forever me and you. So I harbor you. I can't make it without you. I live to worship you. Forever me and you. So I harbor you. I can't make it without you. I live to worship you. Forever me and 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 you. And everything about you is right. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Thank you, Lord. Thank you. Hallelujah. Thank you, Lord. How great is Yahuwah? Sing with me, how great is Yahuwah? All will sing, how great is Yahuwah? Come on, sing with me, how great is Yahuwah? Sing with me, how great is Yahuwah? All will sing, how great is Yahuwah? Singing, oh, how great is Yahuwah? Sing with me, how great is Yahuwah? All will sing, how great is Yahuwah? You're the name above all names. You're the name above all names. And you are worthy of our praise. And our hearts will sing. Oh, how great is Yahuwah. You're the name above all names. You're the name above all names. And you are worthy of our praise. And our hearts will sing. Oh, how great is Yahuwah. Singing, oh, how great is Yahuwah. Sing with me, how great is Yahuwah. All will sing, how great is Yahuwah. Singing, oh, how great is Yahuwah. Sing with me, how great is Yahuwah. All will sing, how great is Yahuwah. You're the name above all names. You're the name above all names. Yes, you are worthy of our praise. And our hearts will sing. Oh, how great is Yahuwah. You're the name above all names. You're the name above all names. And you are worthy of our praise. And our hearts will sing. Oh, how great is Yahuwah. Singing, oh, how great is Yahuwah. Sing with me, how great is Yahuwah. All will sing, how great is Yahuwah. Singing, oh, how great is Yahuwah. Sing with me, how great is Yahuwah. All will sing, how great is Yahuwah. You're the name above all names. You're the name above all names. are worthy of our praise. And our hearts will sing. Oh, how great is Yahuwah. You're the name above all names. You're the name above all names. And you are worthy of our praise. And our hearts will sing. Oh, how great is Yahuwah. You're the name above all names. You're the name above all names. And you are worthy of our praise. And our hearts will sing. Oh, how great is Yahuwah. Singing, oh, how great is Yahuwah. Sing with me, how great is Yahuwah. Oh, sing, how great is Yahuwah. You're the name above all names. You're the name above all names. And you are worthy of our praise. And our hearts will sing. Oh, how great is Yahuwah. You're the name above all names. You're the name above all names. You are worthy of our praise. And our hearts will sing. Oh, how great is Yahuwah. Singing, oh, how great is Yahuwah. Sing with me, how great is Yahuwah. Oh, sing, how great is Yahuwah. Singing, oh, how great is Yahuwah. Sing with me, how great is Yahuwah. Oh, sing, how great is Yahuwah. You're the name above all names. You're the name above all names. And you are worthy of our praise. And our hearts will sing. Oh, how great is Yahuwah. You're the name above all names. You're the name above all names. You are worthy of our praise. And our hearts will sing. Oh, how great is Yahuwah. Singing, oh, how great is Yahuwah. Sing with me, how great is Yahuwah. Oh, sing, how great is Yahuwah. Singing, oh, how great is Yahuwah. Sing with me, how great is Yahuwah. Oh, sing, how great is Yahuwah. You're the name above all names. You're the name above all names. And you are worthy of our praise. And our hearts will sing. Oh, how great is Yahuwah. You're the name above all names. You're the name above all names. And you are worthy of our praise. And our hearts will sing. Oh, how great is Yahuwah. Singing, oh, how great is Yahuwah. Sing with me, how great is Yahuwah. Oh, sing, how great is Yahuwah. Singing, oh, how great is Yahuwah. Sing with with me how great is Yahuwah. All will see how great, how great is Yahuwah. You're the name above all names. You're the name above all names. And you are worthy of our praise. And our hearts will sing. Oh, how great is Yahuwah. You're the name above all names. You're the name above all names. Yes, you are worthy of our praise. And our hearts will sing. Oh, how great is Yahuwah. Singing, oh, how great is Yahuwah. Sing with me, how great is Yahuwah. All will see how great is Yahuwah. Singing, oh, how great is Yahuwah. Sing with me, how great is Yahuwah. All will see how great is Yahuwah. You're the name above all names. You're the name above all names. And you are worthy of our praise. And our hearts will sing. Oh, how great is Yahuwah. You're the name above all names. You're the name above all names. And you are worthy of our praise. And our hearts will sing. Oh, how great is Yahuwah. Singing, oh, how great is Yahuwah. Sing with me, how great is Yahuwah. All will see how great is Yahuwah. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Come on, praise him, praise him, praise him. Come on, praise him, this young man, praise him, praise him, praise him. Hallelujah, hallelujah. What better way to start the Shabbat than to give him praise, for he is due all praise. Hallelujah. He's due all praise. All praise at all times, because he's worthy, and we never tire of praising him. We never tire of learning his ways, learning his statutes, his judgments, and his commands concerning our lives. We never ever tire. And so we just want to give him Baruch on this night, our pre-Sabbath class, a time that we, I like to say, wet our palates for the Sabbath, just stir up our ruach for what we're going to learn on the Sabbath. So we're going to begin with the Baruch of the Torah on tonight, as we always do. Repeat with me: Baruch Yahuwah.
Baruch Yahuwah.
The Baruch one.
The Baruch one.
Baruch is Yahuwah.
Baruch is Yahuwah.
The Baruch one.
The Baruch one.
For all eternity.
For all eternity.
Baruch atah.
Baruch atah.
Yahuwah.
Yahuwah.
Our supreme one.
Our supreme one.
King of the universe.
King of the universe.
Who selected us from all the peoples.
Who selected us from all the people.
And gave us his Torah.
And gave us his Torah.
Baruch atah.
Baruch atah.
Yahuwah.
Yahuwah.
Giver of the Torah.
Giver of the Torah.
And it is so.
And it is so.
Baruch atah.
Baruch atah.
Yahuwah.
Yahuwah.
Our supreme one.
Our supreme one.
King of the universe.
King of the universe.
Who gave us the Torah of truth.
Who gave us the Torah of truth.
And then planted eternal life within us.
And implanted eternal life within us.
Baruch atah.
Baruch atah.
Yahuwah.
Yahuwah.
Giver of the Torah.
Giver of the Torah.
And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. As we stand before you once again this great night, we're going to have the reading of the Decalogue repeated by Yahuwah in the book of Devarim, chapter 5, verses 6 through 22. And it reads, Aleph, I am Yahuwah, your power, which brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim from the bed of slavery. Bet, you shall have no other power before me. You shall not make you any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in Shemayim above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the Mayim beneath the earth. You shall not bow down yourself unto them, nor serve them. For I, Yahuwah, your power, am a jealous power, visiting the iniquity of the Abbas upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that are me and keep my commandments. Gimel, you shall not take the name of Yahuwah your power and falsify it, for Yahuwah will not hold him guiltless that takes his name and empties it. Dalet, guard the Sabbath day to set it apart as Yahuwah your power has commanded you. 6 days shall you labor and do all your work, but the 7th day is the Sabbath of Yahuwah your power. In it you shall not do any work, you nor your son, nor your daughters, nor your manservant, nor your maidservant, nor your ox, nor your ass, nor any of your cattle, nor your foreigner that is within your gates, that your manservant and your maidservant may rest as well as you. And remember, you were a servant in the land of Mitzrayim, and that Yahuwah your power brought you out of there through a mighty hand and by a stretched out arm. Therefore, Yahuwah your power commanded you to keep the Sabbath day. Hey, esteem your Abba and your Ima, as Yahuwah your power has commanded you, that your days may be prolonged and that it may go well with you in the land which Yahuwah your power is about to give you. Wah, you shall not murder. Zayin, neither shall you commit adultery. Ket, neither shall you steal. Tet, neither shall you bear false witness against your neighbor. You, neither shall you desire your neighbor's wife. Neither covet your bed's house, or your bed, or your neighbor's bed, his field, or his manservant, or his maidservant, or his axe, or his ass, or anything that is your neighbor's. These words Yahuwah spoke unto all the assembly in the mount out of the midst of the fire, of the cloud, and of the thick darkness, with a great voice, and he added no more, and he wrote them in 2 tablets of stone, and delivered them unto me. And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. Now as we go to Yahusha, the son of Nun, chapter 1, verse 7 and 8. The writings tell us in Luke 18:1 that men ought to always pray and not faint. It is important that we keep ourselves with a ruach of prayer. And it is so.
And it is so.
And it reads, excuse me, only be you strong and very courageous, that you may observe to do according to all the Torah which Moshe my servant commanded you. Turn not from it to the right nor to the left, that you may prosper wherever you go. Verse 8, as we are going to recite it together, it is our confession. Let us recite this together. I will not let this scroll of the Torah,
I will not let the scroll of the Torah
depart out of my mouth,
depart out of my mouth.
but I shall meditate in it,
But I shall meditate in it
day and night,
day and night,
that I may observe to do
that I may observe to do
according to all that is written in it.
according to all that is written in it.
For then I shall make my way prosperous,
But then I shall make my way prosperous
and act wisely,
and act wisely.
and act wisely.
And act
Now
wisely.
look at your neighbor, tell your neighbor, you shall act wisely.
And you shall act wisely.
Now look at your other neighbor, tell your other neighbor, you shall act wisely, and you shall act wisely. Now take your hand and place it over your heart and say, Abba Yah,
Abba Yah,
I shall act wisely.
I shall act wisely.
Come on, Abba Yah,
Abba Yah,
I shall act wisely.
I shall act wisely.
I endeavor
I endeavor
to act wisely.
to act wisely.
I endeavor
I endeavor
to act wisely.
to act wisely.
And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. That ought to be our motivation every day, to act wisely, regardless of what we face and regardless of what comes upon us. And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. Devarim chapter 6 verses 1 through 18. Once again, I've come to understand the power of repetition. It is important unto us as a people that these things become a major part of our lives.
That's right. That's right.
To help to develop us to grow into his people, the children of power, and that it becomes second nature to us to do everything that we are supposed to do. And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. All right, chapter 6, verses 1 through 18. And it reads, these are the commandments, the statutes, and the judgments, which Yahuwah your power commanded to teach you, that you might do them in the land where you are going to enter and possess it, that you might fear Yahuwah your power to keep all his statutes, his commandments, which I command you, you and your son and your grandson, all the days of your life, that your days may be prolonged. Hear therefore, O Yisrael, and observe to do it, that it may be well with you, and that you may increase mightily as Yahuwah power of your Abbas has promised you in the land that flows with milk and honey. And it is so.
And it is so.
Hear, O Yisrael, Yahuwah our supreme one. Yahuwah is a God. Shema Yisrael. Yahuwah is our Savior. Yahuwah is a God. And you shall ahaba Yahuwah, our Supreme One, with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your might. And these words which I command you this day shall be in your heart. And you shall teach them diligently unto your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your bed, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. To fall, to what?
Bind to the mind.
To bind to the mind. And it shall be, when Yahuwah your power shall have brought you into the land which he swore unto your Abbas, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Yaakov, to give you great cities which you did not build, houses full of great things, and which you did not fill, and wells dug which you did not dig, vineyards and olive trees which you did not plant. When you shall have eaten and be full, then beware lest you forget Yahuwah which brought you forth out of the land of Mitzrayim, from the bed of slavery.
That's right.
You shall fear Yahuwah your power and serve him, and shall swear by his name. You shall not go after the power of the people which are round about you. For Yahuwah your power is a jealous power among you, lest the anger of Yahuwah your power be kindled against you, and he destroy you from off the face of the earth. You shall not tempt Yahuwah your power as you tempted him in Massah. You shall diligently keep the commandments of Yahuwah your power, and his testimonies and his statutes which he has commanded you. And you shall do that which is right in the sight of Yahuwah, that it may be well with you, and that you may go in and possess the great land which Yahuwah swore unto your Abbas. And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. Excuse me. Mishlei 15:8. The sacrifices of the wicked is an abomination, hateful, and exceedingly offensive unto you, Abba Yah. But the prayer of the upright, it is his delight. Mishlei 3:4. So shall we find great understanding in high esteem at the sight and judgment of Yahuwah and man. And it is so.
And it is so.
Tehillim 34:15. The eyes of Yahuwah are upon the upright, and his ears are open unto our cry. Excuse me, verse 17. And the upright cry, and Yahuwah heareth, and delivereth them out of all their troubles. Somebody say he's a strong deliverer.
He's a strong deliverer.
Say it again, he's a strong deliverer.
He's a strong deliverer.
And it is so.
And it is so.
Acts 1:8. But we shall receive power after that, the Ruach HaKodesh has come upon us, and we shall be witnesses unto him both in Jerusalem and all Judea and Samaria, and unto the uttermost parts of the earth. And it is so.
And it is so.
Tehillim 1:1. Baruch is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the unrighteous, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful, but his delight is in the law or the instructions of Abba Yah, and he doth meditate upon it. And it is so.
And it is so.
Ibram 11:6. But without belief it is impossible to please him. But he that cometh to Yahuwah must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. And it is so.
And it is so.
It takes belief to be our obedient, diligent discipline. Ayah 33:4. The Ruach HaKodesh of Yahuwah hath made me, and the breath of the Almighty hath given me life. Micah 4:8. But truly I am full of power by the Ruach of Yahuwah, and of judgment and of might, to declare unto Yaakov his transgression, and to Yisrael his sin. And it is so.
And it is so.
Yehukin and Moshiach 11:24. Therefore I say unto you, what things soever you desire, when you pray, believe that you receive them, and you shall have them. Somebody say, I have just what I asked for.
I have just what I asked for.
And it is so.
And it is so.
Excuse me. Yehukin and Aleph chapter 5, verse 4 and 5. For whatsoever was born of Yahuwah overcometh the world, and this is the victory that overcometh the world, even our belief. Who is he that overcometh the world, but he that believeth that Yahushua is the son of Yahuwah? Yehukin and Aleph chapter 2, verse 5 and 6. But whoever keeps his word, the Torah, truly the Ahab of Yahuwah is perfected in him. By this we know that we are in him. He who says he abides in him ought himself also to walk just as he walked. And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. It's important that we understand that. Can we have one more song, please? Y'all got one? Yeah, you are awesome. Yeah, you are great. Yeah, you are worthy. And you're worthy to be praised. I'll magnify your name. All heavens and the earth shall proclaim your grace. Yeah, you are awesome. Yeah, you are great. Yeah, you are worthy. And you're worthy to be praised. I'll magnify your name. All heavens and the earth will proclaim your grace. Yeah, you are awesome. Yeah, you are great. Yeah, you are worthy. And you're worthy to be praised. I'll magnify your name. All heavens and the earth will proclaim your grace. Yeah, you are awesome. Yeah, you are great. Yeah, you are worthy. And you're worthy to be praised. I'll magnify your name. All heavens and the earth will proclaim your grace. Yeah, you are awesome. Yeah, you are great. Yeah, you are worthy. And you're worthy to be praised. I'll magnify your name. All heavens and the earth will proclaim your grace. Yeah, you are awesome. Yeah, you are great. Yeah, you are worthy. And you're worthy to be praised. I'll magnify your name. All heavens and the earth will proclaim your grace. Yeah, you are awesome. Yeah, you are great. Yeah, you are worthy. And you're worthy to be praised. I'll magnify your name. All heavens and the earth will proclaim your grace. Yeah, you are awesome. Yeah, you are great. Yeah, you are worthy. You're worthy to be praised. I'll magnify your name. All heavens and the earth will proclaim your grace. Yeah, you are awesome. Yeah, you are great. Yeah, you are worthy. And you're worthy to be praised. I'll magnify your name. All heavens and the earth will proclaim your grace. Yeah, you are awesome. Yeah, you are great. Yeah, you are worthy. me praise. I'll magnify your name. All heaven and the earth will proclaim your grace. God, you are awesome. God, you are great. God, you are worthy. And worthy to be praised. I'll magnify your name. All heavens and the earth will proclaim your grace. Hallelujah. Come on, he's great. He's great, he's great, he's great. All the time he's great. There's never a moment that he's not great. He is always great. Forever great unto us. Forever great is he. And we do praise him for yet, once again, another opportunity to give him praise and to esteem him for all that he's doing, all that he's done, and all that he's yet going to do. Now we turn our attention to the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 11, verse 13 through 22. And it reads, And it shall come to pass, if you listen carefully to my commandments, which I command you this day, to Ahava Yahuwah your power, and to serve him with all your heart and with all your soul, that I will give you the rain of your land in its due season, the first rain and the latter rain, that you may gather in your corn and your wine and your oil. And I will send grass in your fields for your cattle, that you may eat and be full. Take heed to yourselves, that your heart be not deceived, and you turn aside and serve other power and worship them. And then Yahuwah's wrath be ignited against you. And he shut up Shemaiah, that there be no rain, and that the land yield not her fruit, lest you perish quickly from off the great land which Yahuwah gives you. Therefore shall you lay up these my words in your heart and in your soul, and bind them for a sign upon your hand, that they may be as frontlets between your eyes, to fall, to bind to the mind. And you shall teach them your children, speaking of them when you sit in your bed, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall write them upon the doorposts of your bed, and upon your gates, that your days may be multiplied, and the days of your children in the land which Yahuwah swore unto your fathers to give them, as the days of Shemaim upon the earth. For if you shall carefully keep all these commandments which I command you, to do them, to Ahava Yahuwah your power, to walk in all his halakha, and to cling unto him, we know what comes next. We will get the victory in every area of our lives. Our striving will not be in vain. Our sowing will not be in vain. Nothing that we do will be in vain, because it will be all accepted and esteemed by Abba Yah. And it is so. As we come to this portion of our time of class, where we bow before our King and we make this confession before him to seal our prayer and our praise unto him. Let us bow before him this great night and repeat with me. May the utterance of my mouth,
and
the deliberation of my heart, be desirable before you, O Yahuwah, my rock, and my redeemer. May the utterance of my mouth, and the deliberation of my heart, be desirable before you, O Yahuwah, my rock, and my redeemer. And it is so. And it is so. We have just recited from Tehillim 19 and 15, and it is so. You may be seated in his presence as we go into our class on this Yom Shishi. As we have come together this night, we want to turn our attention once again to the book of Shema, also known in the English rendering as the book of Exodus. And we want to look at chapter 10. While you're turning there, I want to share some things with you. Every Sabbath class that we are, that Abba Yah gives us a chance to participate in, we have a theme. And this week's theme is both. And it means to enter, And so as we are going through and we're seeing the great things that have taken place in this chapter, and it's just amazing to me that as we're reading this, we are ourselves approaching Peshat. We are approaching what many call Passover. And it's just phenomenal that we are walking out the steps that, or we're seeing the steps that our ancestors and forefathers took around this time as they made preparations to celebrate as they were coming out of a time of slavery.
Right.
And so as we look at these things, once again, this thing is enter. And as we're looking at this, and as you're turning there, I just want to share some things with you. As I was studying today, and I was really just going back studying again, you know, if you study, and sometimes, you know, when you're a hard studier, sometimes we be studying so hard, you be trying not to miss anything, and no matter how hard you study, you still go back and be like, I didn't see that.
Right.
You be trying so hard to capture everything, your eyeballs be feeling like type or like a typewriter. You're trying to type and text everything with your eyes to catch it so you don't miss anything. And as I went back again and began to look over the chapters again, just refresh myself of some of the great things that Abba Yah has done for us as people, and some of the things that he has and will continue to do for us as people. As I look and I began to look at each one of the plagues again, and I went back to the plague of the blood. But before I got there, I began to look at the life of Moshe.
Mm-hmm.
And I began to just kind of look at his life as a leader and as a deliverer. Delivering a great people. What makes us great is because we're his people.
Right.
He said that we will be his people, and we will be a special people unto him. Yeah. And so you have to understand there are certain things that we must look at and we must really take seriously and truly value when it comes down to knowing who we are. Now, that doesn't mean that we become arrogant and proud and boastful, but what that does say is that we should have a air about us, or we should carry ourselves in a certain manner that distinguishes us and sets us apart from everybody else. Why? Because we know who we are. But as I began to look at the life of Moshe, and I began to look at some of the things that he had said, as he had said when he began to talk to Abba Yah, and he began to tell him what it was that he was getting ready to do and what he needed him to do, and how he said and how he literally just Abba Yah that he could not be the one to do it. And you know, for so many years, I looked at how, you know, we said that he had a speech impediment. And I began to really look at that. I said, I really want to see, because if everything that Abba Yah chose, now you have to understand, physically had to be perfect, then what would make Moshe's make him be different and be the exception unto the rule?
Right.
And so I began to look a little closer to what it meant for him to have a speech impediment. Now, we look at it, and I want to show you real quick because I want to go into the class, but I want to show you, I believe it's in chapter 4, verse 10, where he's talking to Abba Yah, and he's pleading his case. And I'm looking and I'm saying, okay, if you are a person that stutters, you're going to be, you know, really having an issue. But once again, let's really look at what's taking place here. And I just want to put this to you to let you see as well what I saw in the writings concerning Moshe. All right. Yeah, chapter 4, verse 10. Now, he is adamantly against doing what he has told him to do. Now, in verse 10, he says, Then Moshe said to Yahuwah, Adon, Yah, I am not eloquent, neither before nor since you have spoken to your servant, but I am slow of speech and slow of tongue. And Yahuwah said to him, Who has made man's mouth? Or who makes the mute, the deaf, the seeing, or the blind? Have not I Yahuwah? Now therefore go, and I will be with your mouth and teach you what you shall say. Now listen what he says. And he said, Adoniah, please send by the hand of whomever else you may send. And now by this time, Yahuwah is hot at him. He's angry with him. Now let's look at the context again. Look at his wording. This is as I saw this, it just really just almost blew me away. It is the wording that we ought to look at. Now, once again, as I did a little more studying of this, it said, according to some historians, the reason why that Moshe had a speech impediment is that when he was younger, he was caught playing with Pharaoh's crown. Now, listen at this, his crown. And that he was tossing it on the ground. And because they wanted to see, Pharaoh wanted to see if he really understood what he was doing, or if he was doing something to be blatantly disrespectful. So according to some of the writers, what they did was they had a coal
burning hot, and they had gold. And if he could distinguish between gold and the coal, if he would reach for the gold, then he would die. But if he reached for the coal, then basically he would be spared because he didn't know the difference. Once again, this is a tradition. This is what was written, and this is what many people draw why he is or why he had a speech impediment. So it's said, according to the writers, that basically when he got ready to reach for the gold, the angel pushed his hand and he grabbed the hot coal and it burned him. And so it burned his hand so bad that he stuck it in his mouth. And when he stuck it in his mouth, it caused his tongue to swell and his lips to swell, that eventually when he got older caused him to have a speech impediment. This is only one recollection of this. Now, once again, I pose to you a different theory, a different point of view. Once again, we're going to get into our lesson. This is a part of our lesson. But I want us to understand a lot of time what we may misinterpret when we go back and look again can show us, because sometimes we be just like Moshe.
Right.
Now listen what he says unto Abiyah. He said, then Moshe said to Yahuwah Adonai, I am not eloquent. Now listen what he says. He did not say that I stammered. He said, I am not eloquent, neither before nor since. He said, you have spoken to your servant, but I am slow of speech and slow of tongue. Now you have to understand this is referring to his manner of being able to intelligently and eloquently convey his thoughts.
Right.
He is a person that is not able to, he felt was able to stand before Pharaoh. Now you have to understand Pharaoh was a king and Pharaoh was one who had a status and a position.
Right.
So when he is talking about, I am slow of speech, are you hearing me?
Yes.
And he is saying, and slow of tongue, it is not because he has a speech impediment. It is because he does not see that he is qualified to be able to hold an intelligent conversation or be able to convey his words to Pharaoh to where he would listen to him. Y'all know how some of us are. I know there are times that I stumble over words and can't find the right words to say.
Right.
And so when it is all said and done, we can also say, I can say of myself, I am slow of speech and slow of tongue. In other words, it is hard at times for me to convey my words and my thoughts in a manner that is eloquent. Are you understanding me?
Yes.
And intelligently.
Right.
And so this is why, because if you read again in the writings, was it not Moshe that told when he was on Mount Sinai, when he came down and the first person he talked to, watch this, without Haran beside him, he says, when Yahusha said, it sounds like war, and Moshe says, no, that sounds like, in my interpretation, folly. Now, if he was one that stammered, he would not have been able to convey that to Yahusha.
Right.
Once again, was it not him also that spoke to the 70 elders? Haran was not there to interpret.
Right.
Once again, we have to place everything in its proper context. This was something that was said. Now, whether it was truth or they were filling in the blanks so that we would basically understand what he was saying, or this was something that they read and took it as being logical.
Right.
But once again, you have to understand his conveyance to Abiyah was, I'm not the man for the job. You know how you have people that are just coming off the street, and there are those that say, man, I can't speak to people in suits. You know, that's just not my language.
Right.
You know, that's not what is my jargon.
Right.
That's not my lingual. I can't speak to people in suits because I'll be just saying something off the wall and they'll take me wrong and be offended. And it's not for them to take offense, but it's just what I do. So that would be a person that would say, if they were humble, you know, I'm slow of speech and slow of tongue. I cannot speak to them because I may say something that they may not like. Right. And I may not make the situation any better. I may make it worse. So once again, it was not so much a speech impediment. It was his ability to convey his thoughts and his words clearly. See, because you have to understand, Abiyah told him, go tell him to let him go. Right. And his whole thing was, well, what am I going to say and how am I going to say it?
Right, right.
It wasn't that he couldn't. It was just that he felt like I wouldn't have the right words to say. I wouldn't know where to begin on how to tell him what and how to do. And this is why Abba Yah says, listen what he says. He says, and now therefore go, I will be with your mouth and teach you what to say. He didn't say I will be there to make what you say understandable. He said I will teach you what to say. Once again, context clues, which give us a powerful impact and understanding that he is telling him, don't worry about what to say. I will tell you what to say. But because he lacked that confidence and believed that he would still be able, that he wouldn't be able to do it, that he said, I can't do it. Please send somebody else. Because he was afraid that he still wouldn't be able to convey his words. You know, if some of us were called to go speak to people of notoriety, some of us be like, no, send somebody else because I might mess it up. I may not know what to say to these people. So send somebody else. And so you have to understand that was Moshiach's take on it. Anywhere else and everywhere else through the writings, he has no problem with conveying his thoughts. Yeah. He has no problem with talking and communicating with everyone. But it was this particular situation right here. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
That now he deals with this situation. Once again, it's important. So now we see that he was one that says, I'm not eloquent. You know, I can't convey my thoughts. I can't stand before these people or this person and tell them. They won't believe me. He even alluded to saying to Abba Yah, if they don't listen to me when I tell them that you're going to bring them out, he says, how is Pharaoh going to listen and take me seriously? Right. Once again, it's like you going and you trying to say, they coming out, they going that way, and he's going to do it for them. You know how sometimes when you're talking to people, especially when you're really trying to convey your thoughts and feel like both your feet in your mouth and your hand trying to get in there too? Yes. Because you're trying to convey your words and you're trying to make it understandable, but at the same time, you want people to understand that you can pull some of them $5 words and $25 words out without making it seem so remedial. You want them to look at you and say, wow, you know, they have a nice vocabulary. Right. You know, you're trying to make sure you sound good. You're trying to make sure, I mean, you sound great. You're trying to make sure you can boost your vocabulary up to about $25 words, or, you know, not the 50-cent words, $2 words, you know, trying to get out of $2 and $5 words. We try to get to the $15 and $20 words. Right. So this is what he was talking about. Him being able to convey his thoughts, like some of us have a hard time doing. But if we would allow Abba Yah to fill our mouths, he would tell us what to say, when to say it. And we don't have to fear standing before people that are sometimes out of our jurisdiction when it comes to talking to them, though we may feel they are. Are you understanding me tonight?
Yes.
All right. Now, once again, and as he went on through that, now we look at the plagues. The plagues with the water turning to blood was also representation of all the Ibram babies that died, that were thrown into the Nile. He turned it into the blood as a memorial and as a reminder to the Mitzrayim what they had done, And the frogs as well were a reminder of the cries of the babies, of the cries. They could not sleep, they would not rest. And so the frogs were also a reminder of what they had done. Flies was the lice. Also said that they were so in their clothes that it was like they had come out the trash can. I saw a post one time that was so gross. I mean, I couldn't even walk. I had to pray to ask Abba Yah to wipe it out of my mind, to where it was just horrible. This person had stuff popping all out of their head and crawling, and I'm like, whew. And I was like, this is just ridiculous. But this is the way you can imagine it. That it was. There was no rest. They were everywhere, and they could not rest. And when it came down to the frogs, not only were they a nuisance with their sound, but they would get into their clothes and they would bite their personals. And you have to understand, it wasn't just them making a lot of noise. It was the things that they were doing, because remember, they were in everything and all over the place. And so by them being in that and doing all that, they would get in their undergarments and all their clothes, and they would bite them. And that not only was the sound horrible, but also what would take place during this time while they were in their clothes, they would bite them. Now somebody would say, well, how can a frog bite you? Frogs can do a lot of things. I mean, that you don't want nothing in your clothes. You know, so it was a lot that was going on. And so even with that, and even with the swarms and the things, they lost a lot. It wasn't just the swarms, but a lot of it was also, they thought of it being noxious animals, which were venomous animals, and which were animals that were very vicious. Right. So when you look at swarm, it wasn't just talking about flies and all of those things. It was talking about more things that came and brought calamity. Right. It caused their domestic animals to die. And so also it referred or put them back in the position to understand when they would make the Ibram go and get animals and because you have to understand they had a zoo at Mitzrayim. They had a zoo. And so the ones that would have to go and get the animals were the Mitzrayim. And so many times they would end up dying, or their animals would end up being killed by wild animals because they were so busy trying to do what Pharaoh had said to do. So they ended up having a lot of their stuff die and killed. So you have to understand each plague represented something that had taken place already. And this time, this is what this was going. But the greatest thing that I learned was that the passion that Abba Yah had for his people was showed through the plagues. Every plague that we have read about and will continue to read about, it reveals the passion that Abba Yah has for his people. Right. And that's why it was so deliberate. And the things that he did, he made sure that there was great calamity upon the lives of the Mitzrayim. So as we read, you have to look not just at their calamity, but you have to also see the passion that Abba Yah had for us, his people, our ancestors and forefathers, to give back unto them what they had dished out unto us. That's right. The people of Abba Yah. So once again, as we read this, it helps us to understand. And each, there is a divine calendar. And each thing that happened, it is revealed on the calendar. Now, as we look when it takes place for the first meeting with Pharaoh, the serpent swallowed. And you can look at that at the serpents, with the first meeting with Pharaoh, and the serpents swallowed. And then Moshe is in hiding, preparing for Yisrael for the Exodus. Now, from that time, from the serpents being swallowed to the blood, that's Dam. Now you look at Iyar, which was the second month, and then Sibian, the third, and then the fourth month, Tammuz. Now I'm gonna read it to you. I'm gonna give it to you also in this form as well. Now, the second month would be Iyar, and then Sibian, and then Tammuz will be the fourth month that this is going on. In our, or not ours, but according to the Gregorian, because this is ours, but according to the Gregorian, that would have been between April, May, June, and right in there between July. So you have to understand all this came about in this cycle within this calendar. Because remember, we've got to get to the time of Abib, which is the time of what? Spring. Right. So everything that happened is basically pushing them around to this time. So now we are looking at, once again, all the things that have taken place during this time. Now we're going to turn our attention to chapter 10. And we're going to read some more. And it is so. We're going to start Shema chapter 10, and we're going to read, let's read 6 verses, starting at verse 1.
Six verses?
Yes.
The King James Version, Shema, which is Exodus chapter 10, verse 1. And Yahuwah said unto Moshe, Go unto Pharaoh, for I have hardened his heart, and the heart of his servants, that I might show these my signs before him, and that thou mayest tell in the ears of thy son and thy son's son what thing I have wrought in Mitzrayim, and my signs which I have done among them, that ye may know how that I am Yahuwah. And Moshe and Haran came unto Pharaoh and said unto him, Thus says Abba Yahuwah of the Hebrews, How long wilt thou refuse to humble thyself before me? Let my people go, that they may serve me. Else, if thou refuse to let my people go, behold, tomorrow I will bring the locusts unto thy coast, and they shall cover thy face of the earth, that one cannot be able to see the earth. And they shall eat the residue of that which is escaped, which remaineth unto you from the hail, and shall eat every tree which groweth for you out of the field. And they shall fill thy houses, and the houses of thy servant, and the houses of all the Mitzrayim, which neither thy fathers nor thy fathers' fathers have seen, since the day that they were upon the earth unto this day. And he turned himself and went out from Pharaoh.
And it is so. And it's so. Now, once again, let's look at where we are. We're at plague 8. Now, let's look at each one, starting with number 1, what it deals with. Water to blood, Hapai, and or Kamun, god of the Nile. Then we have the frogs, which is Heket, goddess of fertility and water. Then you have lice, vermin, which is Geb, god of the earth. Then you have swarms, which is Kepri, lord of flies or beetles. And you have pestilence, Apis, goddess of animals. So we understand with the pestilence, this is where even a lot of the historians said that there were pigs. Now you have to understand something about a pig. Pigs are, they carry diseases as well. And it said what the pigs would go and do is that they would go eat behind or in front of the animals. And when the other animals came behind them to graze and to eat, they would end up dying because they would end up getting sick behind them. So once again, you have to understand pigs were also considered pestilence because they would go and eat and they would contaminate a lot of things. And so this is where it comes against Apis, goddess of animals. Then the boils, Isis, goddess of nature and healing. I'm reading this book now, and I'm reading it because I want to learn certain things, and I'm very careful of what I read. But you have to understand, those that are in Kemet, they regard Isis, and they regard all of the gods of Mitzrayim, and they regard them. And I'm saying to myself, the same information that I am is made available to me is made available to you. But you can look at them also from the mindset of Pharaoh.
Right.
They're hard-hearted, and their mindset is no matter what you may say, we don't believe that ever happened, and we're going to continue to adhere to these goddesses and to these gods.
Right.
When you have to understand, Abba Yah defeated them with using these things, and they said to defeat their gods using these things that they basically said that they had control over. And there was nothing they could do to stop the hand of Abba Yah. Once again, boils, Isis, the goddess of nature and healing. When the boils came, they couldn't do anything with that.
Nope.
There was nothing they could do. They called and did whatever, but there was no change. Then we go into the hail and fire. This is Nut, sky goddess and sister of Geb. Once again, these are all regarded as major deities in the religion of Kemet. We don't have a religion.
Right.
We have a lifestyle.
Right.
That's why our lifestyle, as we continue to live this lifestyle, we grow and we develop. This is a lifestyle, not a religion. Because you can change religions. The only thing really truthfully about a lifestyle that you can do is cover it up and hide it, conceal it. That's what you could do.
Right.
But when it comes down to it, lifestyle is just that, your lifestyle.
That's right. That's right.
Now, we're to the locusts. And it is Set, God of storms and disorder. Now we're going to see once again, he said, if you don't do this, this is what's going to happen. And he's told me, he said, let my people go, that they may worship me. And out of all the things that he've experienced and they experienced, he still was not ready to let go and let the children of Abiyah go to worship him. When people are hard, no matter what, they're going to remain hard.
Right.
Especially when Abiyah is at the helm of it. All right, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, please.
And Pharaoh's servant said unto him, how long shall this man be a snare unto us? Let the men go, that they may serve Yahuwah their power. Knowest not yet that Mitzrayim is destroyed?
Now hold on. Now listen, who's this? Then Pharaoh's servant said to him, how long shall this man be a snare to us? Let the men go, that they may serve Yahuwah their power. Do you not yet know that Mitzrayim is destroyed? Now you have to understand the backstory behind this is that everybody that said that died. Instantly, there was a civil war that broke out in verse 7, even though we really don't hear about it, but there was, I believe it's in the book of Yesher as well. But in verse 7, there was more to it that was attached to that verse. There was a civil war that broke out because people were getting tired in Mitzrayim, and they were saying, Pharaoh, we're destroyed. I mean, what else are you holding on to? We are dying over here, and you still want to continue to hold on to this man, and he's a snare to us. And it was at that moment that there broke out a civil war between the servants of Pharaoh and his army, his trusted men that were there. And basically they didn't care what was going on, and they began to fight, and it was a bloody battle. And they ended up dying, each one of them, and their families as well, because they basically opposed Pharaoh and his actions. All right, let's read.
Verse 9. And Moshe said, we will go with our young and with our old, with our sons and with our daughters, with our flocks and with their herds, and with our herds will we go, for we must hold a feast unto Yahuwah. And he said unto them, let Yahuwah be so with you, as I will let you go. Your little ones, look to it, for evil is before you. Not so. Go now ye that are men, and serve Yahuwah. For that ye did desire, and that were driven out from Pharaoh's presence.
Okay. Now once again, verse 8 says, and Moshe and Aaron were brought again to Pharaoh, and he said to them, go serve Yahuwah your power, but who are the ones that are going? Now, once again, it cuts into another screen. Another scene, and this is where you see them come back to him. Right. And by this time, the slaughter has taken place, or the fight, the civil war has broke out, and everything has been done. And Moshe said, we will go with our young, our old, with our sons and our daughters, with our flocks and with our herds, we will go. But we must hold a feast to Yahuwah. In other words, he's now getting to the point where he still wants to maintain that, thinking that he's in control. I'll let you go, but you still gotta, in other words, you gotta leave a deposit here that you're gonna come back. Right. I need to know you're gonna come back here when you go. And so Moshe was saying, no, we cannot. Verse 10 says, then he said to them, Yahuwah had better be with you when I let you and your little ones go. Beware, for calamity is ahead of you. Right. Now, Pharaoh threatens Moshe as if he holds the future of Yisrael. But the future is in Yahuwah's hands, and no calamity can befall those who serve the king and obey his Torah. Now, you ought to just tell him, hallelujah for that one. Hallelujah. Because no matter what, no kind of calamity can befall us if we are walking in Torah. Now, I didn't say you wouldn't have trials and tribulations. Right. I didn't say that we wouldn't find ourselves in situations that sometimes can be challenging. But you have to understand the difference between calamity and a trial. Right. And he says, now, once again, he threatens them, and he said, he better be, number one, that was the worst thing he could have ever done. Right. Because in truthfulness, he was basically threatening Abba Yah. You better be with him, because I'm going to come and get him and take him back. Sometimes people in their foolish words. Mm-hmm. Now listen what he says. In verse 11, he said, not so, go now, you that are men, and serve Yahuwah, for that is what you desired. And they were driven out from Pharaoh's presence. Now, he didn't even give them a chance to finish. And this is where you know now that it is coming down to that point to where Pharaoh doesn't want to talk anymore. He has basically, he is done. And he has been pushed, but he still won't relent. And so now the whole thing of it is that he is saying, no, everybody's not going, and either you're going to take it this way or you ain't going to take it at all. Right. Almost giving Abba Yah an ultimatum. You don't give Abba Yah an ultimatum. Right. Neither do we try to bargain with him. Right. Now, we can pray and ask him to change his mind, but to try to bargain with him, we don't have enough to bargain with him. Are you understanding me? But we can pray and intercede and ask him to show mercy and perhaps change his mind, because we've seen it in the writings that he has done it before. Are you understanding me?
Yes.
And so it's important we understand that. And Yahuwah said to Moshe, stretch out your hand over the land of Mitzrayim, for the locusts, that they may come upon the land of Mitzrayim and eat every herb of the land, all that the hail has left. Now you have to understand, after the hail and the ice and the hail, wasn't nothing left but some little stragglers. Anybody ever seen the Rugrats and Angelica's little dog Cynthia? I'm sure that's what the fields look like. So when they came in and got that, what they took, it devastated. So you can imagine what the land looked like after the locusts had come.
Right.
It just looked like a desolate, dry desert, because they came and ate the rest because he would not listen. So once again, you have to understand, when you don't walk in obedience, and when Abba Yah proclaims a thing because of your disobedience, you better understand something. These things were happening back to back, back to back, back to back. And once again, the locusts represented Set, god of storms and disorder. So now, while they were going to cry out to their so-called deity, nothing was going to happen, because you have to understand, Abba Yah rules everything, and he is king over all.
That's right.
And so we see this. All right. Now let's read 13, 14, 15, 16, 17.
And Moshe stretched forth his rod over the land of Mitzrayim, and Yahuwah brought an east wind upon the land all that day, and all that night. And when it was morning, the east wind brought the locusts. And the locusts went up over all the land of Mitzrayim, and rested in all the coasts of Mitzrayim. Very grievous were they. Before them there was no such locust as they, neither after them shall be such. For they covered the face of the whole earth, so that the land was darkened, and they did eat every herb of the land, and all the fruit of the trees, which the hail had left. And there remained not any green thing in the trees, or in the herbs of the field, through all the land of Mitzrayim. Then Pharaoh called for Moshe and Aharon in the haste. And he said, I have sinned against Yahuwah, your power, and against you. Now therefore forgive, I pray thee, my sin only this once, and entreat Yahuwah your power, that he may take away from me this death only. And it is so.
And it is so. Now you have to understand. Now look at how Abba Yah did. He caused the wind to blow that night and that morning. He caused it to blow and bring them in. And it said this was a unique kind of locust. This was a unique kind of locust that came in and devastated the land. Whatever was left was destroyed. There was nothing. Now you have to understand, if you destroy the crop, the seeds, the root of everything, you have to understand one thing about locusts, they leave nothing. They eat roots, they eat everything. Right. They devastate a crop. And this is what was done. But let's look at this also. The locusts are a description of the radical Islamic armies. They will also come at the end of days when Yahuwah brings them against Yisrael to reveal his beauty. And so it's important that we understand these things. Once again, that swarm. While many of us are looking at Europeans saying they are the enemy and that they are enemy number one, let me tell you something. They are not the enemy of the true Ibram people. Right. The true enemy are cousins. They are family. We're family to those that we are that's our real enemy.
That's right.
Are you understanding me?
Yes.
This is Ishmael and a combination of Esau. So you have to understand, you're talking about a nephew and an uncle combining. Are you understanding me?
Yes.
That's family. It has nothing to do with those that are outside. And many have asked, are the Europeans Esau or Edom? No, they are not. Number one, they don't fit the description. Number two, they can't be according to their genealogy. They can't be it. Because they didn't come from the descendants of they were not Ibram, and neither were they Mitzrayim.
Right.
And Hagar was Mitzrayim, and Abraham was Ibram. And they brought forth Ishmael. When you look at Esau and Yaakov, parents were who? Isaac and Rachel, right? No, Rebecca. Once again, which were who? Which were Ibram. Now, a lot of people go and say, well, his name was Laban, and Laban means white. My name, everybody's name didn't, just because it meant that, didn't mean that that was their nationality. Are you understanding me?
Yes.
Bianca means white. Are you understanding me?
Yes.
But once again, white is not a color, it's a shade.
That's right.
So just because a person is named that does not mean that that is their nationality. Because people have called us black, but there's no such thing as a nation of black people.
Right.
Either you're Ibram or you're not even African, Igbo, Rwanda. Are you understanding me? We're not Africans, once again, and don't take that in the wrong manner. But that was a name that was given. But we're not Africans. We're either Ibram, Igbo, and some of the other ones. I don't know all of them, but some of the rest of them, once again, we're not white and black. You're not brown and yellow. Those are shades. And even though some of us can be, you know, that top yapa color, that's still not our nation.
Right.
So it's important that we understand that. But this is talking about what's going to happen. And so we better prepare ourselves. And it is so.
It is so.
All right, let us read 18, 19, 20, 21, 22.
And he went out from Pharaoh and entreated Yahuwah. And Yahuwah turned a mighty strong west wind, which took away the locusts and cast them into the Reed Sea. There remained not one locust in all the coast of Mitzrayim.
Now, let me read this footnote. The remez to this, or the hint, in the Torah shows us that Western armies shall come up to stop the assault of the Islamic armies and be part of the battle at the end of days, fighting for Yisrael and their own survival before the return of Mashiach. It says the U.S. and the U.K. are key marketed nations for this battle. And it's important that we understand that, these different things. Once again, we must pay attention to everything that is taking place and everything that continues to take place and evolves even in the time that we're in. And it is so.
It is so.
All right, let's read.
But Yahuwah hardened Pharaoh's heart so that he would not let the children of Yisrael go. And Yahuwah said unto Moshe, stretch out thine hand toward Shemaim, that there may be darkness over the land of Mitzrayim, even darkness which may be felt. And Moshe stretched forth his hand toward Shemaim, and there was a thick darkness in all the land of Mitzrayim 3 days.
And it is so 3 days. Now, we ain't talking about no, and it says, it was a thick, dark fog. Anybody ever seen fog before?
Yes.
When we lived in, when I lived in California as a young girl, it would get foggy, especially when you're living up in the California hills, or Beverly Hills. We would go up there because we had people we knew that lived up in Beverly Hills. And we had people that lived in those areas, sometime Mishpachah and then friends. And that fog could get so thick sometimes that you couldn't see. That's why most of the cars that are there have fog lights, because it would get so thick and dense. And so you have to understand, if this is like fog and it's black and thick and you can basically feel it for 3 days, that's 72 hours, right?
Yes.
72 hours they had to live and could not see. So you can imagine for 3 days they had to sleep and they had to urinate, and they had to have a bowel movement wherever they were because they could not get around. There was no such thing as having a light where they could navigate and see, because the darkness was too thick. That was the purpose of the darkness. Right. So they could not, they didn't have anything that would be able to penetrate that darkness. And so you can imagine for 72 hours, 72 hours, when they opened their eyes or whenever, it was just like they were in a place that like never before. That meant wherever you were, if you were at home and wherever you were found, that's where you had to stay.
Right.
Because you couldn't maneuver, you couldn't move anywhere. So that meant for 72 hours, you had to use the bathroom where you were. You couldn't eat for 72 hours. You could not drink water for 72 hours. For 72 hours, you couldn't do nothing but be where you were. Because if you tried to move, you'd end up hurting yourself or somebody else. Can you imagine trying to move and you bumping into stuff, bumping into people, livestock and everything? It's just so much stuff going on.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So you had to remain put wherever you were. Now you can imagine being in that type of darkness, the terror and the torment that it brought to the individual. For somebody to be in the dark for 72 hours begins to play with the mind. So you can imagine in that first 24 hours, they probably began to hear stuff. They probably began to feel stuff because they could feel it. So you think, stop touching me. I'm not touching you.
Right.
You're touching me. I'm not touching you.
Right.
So for that first 24 hours, then the 48 hours come, then 72 hours, and you're thinking, I'm going to get adjusted. You don't get adjusted to that type of darkness.
Right.
I'm talking about so dark to where you can't see anything, to where no type of light is able to penetrate it. Because if that's the case, then all they would have to do is just light a light and that maneuver through the darkness, get a candle, get a light, and they could go from place to place. No, the reason for the darkness was for them not to be able to move. Remember, this is calamity.
Right. Right.
It was not going to be easy for them. And so you see these things and you see how all this takes place. Once again, you have to understand every plague represented something. The darkness. He kept the children of Yisrael from being able to go and to worship and to have a feast unto Abba Yah. He kept them from being able to walk in obedience. So once again, you can imagine how it felt. I know when it gets dark in places that we have gone and places where we tend to be, it gets so dark, you're like, don't move. Do not move. I know one year when we were in South Carolina, and we had a blackout, and it was so black. I'm talking about there was no lights on. It was dark, but I mean, you still could light a light and at least maneuver to your bedroom and get there. But anywhere else, you couldn't go. Only thing you do, just go to bed, because you're like, we can't do nothing. We can't see. Just go to bed. And so that's all you could do, because you really can't do anything. But now we're talking about a thickness like a fog. Fog is hard and dense, and it's hard. That's why, once again, like I said, they had fog lights. Mm-hmm. And even those fog lights, sometimes you could maneuver there. Sometimes you would see cars parked on the side of the road because it would still be the fog would be too thick and they couldn't see. Right. So instead of them getting into accidents, you see cars pulled all over on the side of the road, waiting until it subsided. Because that's just how thick it is. Now imagine it being black. That's an eerie feeling. Very. Children crying, parents crying, because you really can't get to them. You can't feed them. You can't do anything but succumb to your situation. Mm-hmm. Once again, this is calamity. Calamity from the hand of Abba Yah. Now, once again, for 3 days, that's 72 hours. Now, verse 23 says, they did not see one another, nor did anyone rise from his place for 3 days. But all the children of Yisrael had light in their dwellings. They couldn't even get up to go see who had light. They couldn't even get up to see what was going on. So wherever they were, that's where they had to remain. Because it would be detrimental and too dangerous to be trying to maneuver in that type of darkness. Verse 24, then Pharaoh called to Moshe and said, go serve Yahuwah. Only let your flocks and your herds be kept back. Let your little ones also go with you. And Moshe said, you must also give us sacrifices and burnt offerings, that we may sacrifice to you our power. Our livestock also shall go with us. Not a hoof shall be left behind, for we must take one of them to serve Yahuwah, our power. For we do not know with what we must serve Yahuwah until we arrive there. Once again, he's still trying to hold on to that, to what he think he has, and that's control. He is not in control. Anybody ever seen the movie, and I like to use the movie as analogies. Anybody ever seen the movie Jurassic Park, the first one? And what is the man's name? The owner of the older guy with the glasses. I can't think of his name. You know what I'm talking about? The owner of Jurassic Park. I can't think of his name, but when they were in there in the I believe it was the cafeteria, and there him and the girl was there. Doctor, not Dr. Grant, the other lady. Because the man's name was Dr. Grant. But the lady, his girlfriend at the time, when they were sitting and they were talking at the table, and he was eating the ice cream, and they were talking, and he was saying about the fleas, the flea circus, how it was an illusion, and that that people believed it because that's what they wanted to believe. And he said, but next time when we do this, we'll have control. She said, that's your problem. That's the illusion. Right. You never had control to begin with. A lot of times that's what a lot of our problems are. We believe that we're in control of something that we're not. Mm-hmm. That's an illusion. You think you're controlling the situation is controlling you.
Right.
And so we have not afford to be people that are caught in that delirious and believe that we're in control of situations that we cannot change, not one dot or jot or tittle of it.
Right.
We can't change none of it, but yet we continue to believe we're in control of it, and we're not. And that's the same thing that happened. When you're not in control, you still try to pull these little strings, say, well, if I do this, then I'm sure they'll have to come back. No, when you're not in control, you're just not in control.
Right.
And the more you try to hold on to it, the worse things become to you and comes to you because of the things that you continue to basically invest into that situation, even relationships. Verse 27 says, but Yahuwah hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he would not let them go. Then Pharaoh said to him, get away from me, take heed to yourself, and see my face no more. For the day you see my face, you shall die. That right there was an indicator. There's nothing else that can be done. Because if Moshe would have went back again, he was going to kill him. He said, get away from me. He said, for in the time you come back, you will die. And Moshe said, you have spoken well. I will never see your face again. Now, once again, you're looking at you can't say it was a power struggle, but we can say that it was Abba Yah showing the compassion for his children, the children of Yisrael, versus what Pharaoh had done. And he was showing them by bringing calamity to those that had brought calamity to their lives. Right. And it is so.
And it is so.
All right, let's read. We're going to read a little bit of chapter 11, and then we're going to get ready to pray. Let's read, we can read, it's 10 verses. We can read, let's read 5 apiece.
Oh, is that in verse 1?
Mm-hmm.
And Yahuwah said unto Moshe, yet will I bring one plague more upon Pharaoh and upon Mitzrayim. Afterwards he will let you go hence. When he shall let you go, he shall surely thrust you out hence altogether. Speak now in the ears of the people, and let every man borrow of his neighbor, and every woman of her neighbor, jewels of silver and jewels of gold. And Yahuwah gave the people favor or esteem in the sight of the Mitzrayim. Moreover, the man Moshe was very great in the land of Mitzrayim, in the sight of Pharaoh's servants, and in the sight of the people. And Moshe said, thus says Yahuwah, about midnight will I go out into the midst of Mitzrayim, and all the firstborn in the land of Mitzrayim shall die, from the firstborn of Pharaoh that sitteth upon his throne, even unto the firstborn of the maidservant that is behind the mill, and all the firstborn of the beasts.
And it is so.
And it is so. Now once again, darkness was Ra, the sun god, and then death of the firstborn Pharaoh, son of Ra, Canaan, Ammon, Ram god, Horus, war god. And so death of the firstborn, he's showing. Now once again, he says he's going to drive you out. He says, so now, speak now in the hearing of the people, and let every man ask from his neighbor, and every woman from her neighbor, articles of silver and articles of gold. Now let's remember, let's go back a little bit. Remember when Joseph was in the land of Mitzrayim, and when he basically established the economy there, when he basically was the one who made that an empire and took it and made it what it was not. Through the wisdom of Abba Yah, as he had storehouses and as he had bought the silver and the gold, and how he gave it to them, and how he would give to them when he would go, and whatever he had, he gave. Now, I'm inclined to believe they were borrowing what was theirs.
Right.
Because remember, when they basically became servants and slaves, you know, they had to have all that taken from them.
Right.
They had probably all that taken from them. So now Abba Yah say, go borrow. In other words, go get what is yours. And watch this. And it says that, and Yahuwah gave the people esteem in the sight of the Mitzrayim. Moreover, the man Moshe was very great in the land of Mitzrayim, in the sight of Pharaoh's servants, and in the sight of the people. Why? Because they saw everything that he was doing. So they had no problem. You know, in their eyes, we just ready for him to leave. And Moshe said, thus says Yahuwah, about midnight I will go into the midst of Mitzrayim. Now, mind you, he's telling them, get all this stuff now, go borrow. So you know they were loaded up here. You can have the candlesticks. You want you can have that too. You want that? Oh, you can have that too. Take everything. I don't care. It's yours. You can have it. You know, you don't have to convince me that Abba Yah is with you. You don't have to convince me that Yah is your Savior and that he is for you and not against you. Right. You don't have to convince me of these things. And so they had no issue with doing this. And listen what he says. And all of the Bekor in the land of Mitzrayim, in the land of Mitzrayim shall die, from the Bekor of Pharaoh who sits on his throne, even to the Bekor of the female servant who is behind the handmill, and all the Bekor of the animals. Now you have to understand, when he alludes to those that were servants, once again you had those that had defected from Goshen and were a part of, had become a part of Mitzrayim. And they were the servants, and so they began to work and take on that lifestyle. Now, you have to understand, some of them ended up dying, contrary to popular belief. Why? Because they defected. It was Ayab, a Hebrew, who told Pharaoh, according to the book of Yesher, to take the sons and throw them in the Nile. So there were a lot of things that he was being encouraged to do. One of the servants that was around him and his advisors was sometimes Ibram. And so there were those that basically advised him, and it was one of our own that advised Pharaoh to kill the sons, and the way to kill them was to throw them into the Nile. And killed them while they were being born. So once again, a lot of things we began to see was taking place. Now Mitzrayim worshiped the firstborn as power. So Yahuwah killed the firstborn to demonstrate that they were not power, but just ordinary humans. This put the fear in the Mitzrayim's heart that had strange pagan beliefs. Even some cultures, such as the Tibetans, Tibetans carry this type of belief today. So that means people that believe that their children, their firstborn, are like deities. And even their animals. You know, people do that with cats. And so this is what was going to put the fear in their hearts. Now, let's look at this. Let's look at the last 5 verses of this chapter. Yeah, because it's different. And there shall be a great cry throughout the land of Mitzrayim, such as was not like it before, nor shall be like it again. But against none of the children of Yisrael shall a dog move its tongue against man or beast, that you may know that Yahuwah does make a difference between the Mitzrayim and Yisrael. Now you have to understand, what does that mean? He said all of those. Now listen what he says. He said, and there shall be a great cry in the land of where? Mitzrayim. Now, if they were caught in Mitzrayim, they were going to suffer in Mitzrayim.
That's right.
Same thing. If we're caught outside of Torah, then we're going to suffer like those outside of Torah.
Right.
You can't be outside and be in at the same time. You're going to be either in or out, and you better choose to be in. But none. Now, listen what it says. But against none of the children of Yisrael shall a dog move its tongue against man or beast, that it will be known that Abba Yah makes a difference between Yisrael and Mitzrayim. Now let's look at the footnote. a term used for Gentile people who have no covenant with Yahuwah. That's why he called the woman, the Canaanite woman, in Matthew chapter 15. He called her a what? A dog. Because she was not what? Covenant. But she turned right around and said, but even the dogs have to catch what? The crumbs that fall from what? The master's table. So she understood covenant, and she also understood her belief in him and in the Torah. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
That's important for us to understand. The children of Yasrael are always special in Yahuwah's eyes because of our covenants established with Yahuwah through our forefathers. It is not because we do everything right, but the promises and agreements Yahuwah has made with our forefathers stands forever. That's something that we should always remember, but also remember, just because those covenants and promises are in place does not give us a legal right to say, well, I'm not doing everything right, but he has to uphold his promise. Let me tell you something. If you don't do right, you're going to suffer for wrongdoing. Are you hearing me?
Yes, yes.
And so we need to make sure that we're adhering to our part of the covenant. And that's to live right and do right. All right. And all these your servants shall come down to me and bow down to me, saying, get out, and all the people who follow you. After that I will go out. Then he went out from Pharaoh in great anger. Now listen what he says again. And all these your servants shall come down to me and bow down to me, saying, get out, and all the people who follow you. After that I will go out. Then he went out from Pharaoh in great anger. And Yahuwah said to Moshe, Pharaoh will not listen to you, in order that my wonders may be multiplied in the land of Mitzrayim. Verse 10, he says, so Moshe and Aaron did all these wonders before Pharaoh, and Yahuwah hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he did not let the children of Yisrael go out of his land. And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. Now, it's important that we don't take this as a fairy tale, and that we don't take it as a good story, but we take it literally, and we see that the same thing that has happened here will happen again. Now, you have to understand, once again, we know that things are not at their best here in America or the U.S. of A. But the thing of it is, once again, we do have freedom. We have a freedom to be able to move. Yes, we have opposition. I will never say that we don't, because we do. Because we're the land of our enemies. Why? What does an enemy do? An enemy is always there to stop you from progressing.
That's right.
An enemy is there to always try to thwart your progression and to thwart your ideas and your creativity and your abilities to advance and move forward. That's what an enemy does. Now, when you talk about a slave master, that's when it's something different. That's when you're in slavery. Once again, yes, many of our Ak and Akodi have left home not to return because their lives were taken at the hands of cops that were what we call as government officials, which they are not. They are actually servants of the queen. And so it's important that you understand where their alliance is. Mm-hmm. And so it's important that we understand these things, very important. But at the same time, we must understand certain things were prophesied according to Devarim chapter 28. And so that's why we must be not just hearers of Torah, but keepers of Torah, and make sure that our lives are truly steeped in Torah, and Torah is steeped in us.
That's right.
Once again, I pray that this pre-Sabbath class has encouraged your heart and has provoked you to study more and to truly hold on and maintain your consistency in the writings and in the Torah, because when it's all said and done, this is our way of life.
Right.
We have no other way but this way. And if you want to be assured, no matter what, that you are going to be protected in these final days, then you need to make sure that you are adhering to the Torah and you're doing all. I didn't say the traditions of men. I didn't say Judaism. I said in the Torah. I'm talking about the scrolls of Abba Yah, that he had his prophets and his teachers or moras and guides and his rabbis to write out for our instructions and for our learning. It's important that we follow these things. Once again, I want to say to you, I pray that Abba Yah will give you sweet rest on tomorrow, and that He would fill your life tomorrow with the greatness of His shalom, and that you will continually hunger and thirst after His uprightness. Once again, I am Prophetess Sabrina Brown, also Moral 777, and I am the leader of Messengers of Yahuwah's Kingdom of Great Belief Ministries, located in South Carolina. Also, I want you to remember today is the release, the first day of the release of the full CD, U3, Out of the Ashes We Rise, His Amazing Mercy. It's been a long time coming, but it is finally available. So if you are desiring to have one, then you can go to our page, which is on my news feed. We'll put it up again after the broadcast, and you can go. We will be shutting the store down because we do observe Sabbath. And so make sure you get it before the store closes. But if you don't, you will always be able to turn around, Yahuwah willing, the first day, and check it out and support us after Sabbath rest. Once again, I want to say to you, we Abba you, and we pray that the strength of Abba Yah continues to invigorate you and continue to keep you strong in the belief of the Torah. Once again, I am Prophetess Sabrina Brown, also Moral 777, and I am the leader of Messengers of Yahuwah's Kingdom of Great Belief Ministries, located in South Carolina. I want you to remember, here at Messengers of Yahuwah's Kingdom of Great Belief Ministries, this is the place where
the Torah does the body excellent.
I also want you to remember that you've been touched by Champion TV, a place where the champions reside. And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so.